Hello and welcome to Push Your Glasses Up. I'm Mikey.
And I'm Rena. And hi.
Hello.
Nothing like skinning your knee like a 5-year-old before recording a podcast.
Nobody would have known. Nobody would have known if you didn't say anything.
If I'm cranky, it's because
Listen,
my knee
it
hurts
wasn't
really bad.
it wasn't that you skinned your knee like a 5-year-old. You skinned your knee protecting your dog from getting hit by a car.
Yes.
Yes,
that's true.
It's a much more noble story than falling off a big wheel, say.
Although, truthfully, I didn't even start to feel it till now because my adrenaline was so freaking high.
A little ibuprofen will help it. It's fine.
Yeah. So, between that and crying for the second time over the Demon Slayer movie, I'm all out of it. But, let's get down to business.
That one is self-inflicted, though. Speaking of dogs, we're here to talk about Cruella. That's a segue.
That was a perfect segue.
It was forced. So, start out, what did you think about the movie?
I was delighted. I was surprised that I was delighted by it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, which I did not expect to do it. I went into it treating it like an assignment. And actually really liked it and recommended it to my sister since she uses my Disney Plus account.
I, too, very much enjoyed this movie. I think I'm going to have to revisit a couple, but this is pretty high on the list of these remakes, reimaginings for me.
Was it perfect? No, but it was light years better than I thought it was going to be.
Little long. Could have been a little shorter. But, these things happen. But I guess the main thing we're going to need to talk about is the fact that, Emma Stone's performance in this is ridiculously good. It is so good. It's funny that, people wanted to, because of the trailer, say that this is, they're just doing the Joker. But it's really not. Well,
first of all, if anything, she's Harley. If we're gonna really go that route,
I don't even think it's. I don't think it's either of them. I think it's just a really good look at personality as opposed to a villain origin story necessarily. I think it's more of a what's the word I'm looking? God damn, it's gonna bother me that I can't think of the word now. But it's just a character study as opposed to an origin story in my head, which is because she never she's always been Cruella. She didn't I'm going to become the Joker at any point in this movie. She was already living that personality in her. Right?
Yeah, it was just a different side of her. But also, I mean, she didn't hurt innocent people along the way. She wasn't fucking creepy, and she didn't have she didn't cast all her freaking issues upon everybody else. The Joker is way over there.
Yeah, this is a very stylish but pretty straightforward revenge story. That's really all it is. Which is to say that plot idea is simple, but I think the wrapping on it is what makes it special. The costumes, the cinematography, the needle drops, the budget for the soundtrack of this movie it's probably just as much as Emma Stone made for this movie. It's enormous how big the soundtrack is.
And I think we need to set the tone a little bit. So this takes place in London in the 1960s. So that's kind of where a lot of this awesome fashion's coming from. Kind of the birth of when things started to shift through punk rock in the 70s.
Proto-punk into punk and yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of which I was surprised I didn't kind of realize that took place in there. Because I think when you think Cruella, you kind of think more almost Victorian, a little more old school. So I liked that it was set in that time frame because it lent itself to being very stylish and the amazing soundtrack and like making it a heist movie for part of it.
Yeah.
And
I think I was aware of the time period because of the first photo they put out like a year and a half ago. They made it seem like an album cover kind of, with her with the Dalmatians like coming at the camera. But yeah, it's the tone of this movie is fairly dark for, a Disney movie. It's still like comical. Like it's still Emma Stone playing to the back of the room as if she's performing in a theater as opposed to, a quiet, more somber role.
oh no, it's full of camp. It is campy as shit. Like, oh my god, and I love it for that.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like the more I think about it, the only real gripe I have is that like it just needed to be trimmed a little bit in my opinion. Because there's like that section you mentioned with the heist. I don't think we needed to see Jasper and Horace do like 4 different versions of them breaking into somewhere. Like, I think we get the idea that they're like continuously fucking with Emma Thompson in this movie. And so other than that, I think it's just like if they trimmed that a little bit, had it at least just below 2 hours, I think it would have been even better. But it's still like leaps and bounds beyond what it was expected to be, I think.
Well, I mean, when it first got announced, people were like, why do we need this? Like, her whole claim to fame is wanting to skin dogs and make a coat.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that's like a good, like, how do you make a movie out of that? And I think that's actually, they did a really good job of both addressing and reestablishing her relationship with Dalmatians.
Right, because that's the thing is, it's also, this isn't really a prequel to that movie that already exists. And it's also not a prequel to the book that exists that movie is based on. This is just a different version of this character. And so it's,
like the Dalmatians are like, they're mean, but they are not like,
so let's
trained that
let's
way.
talk about that for a second. The other, like, the day the movie came out, somebody pirated the clip of her mother being attacked by the Dalmatians and put over the cliff. And everyone was suddenly like, that's so dumb. Her origin story is that a Dalmatian killed her mother and that's why she hates Dalmatians and becomes this character. It's like, no, this is what happened with The Last of Us last year when The Last of Us Part 2 leaked like months before the game came out, and everyone was talking about the cutscenes that leaked without the context of the full story. And when you watch the movie, it's she's not suddenly against Dalmatians because they killed her mother. She doesn't think that the Dalmatians killed her mother at all in this movie.
She takes it upon herself. She thinks she did because the dogs were chasing her because she didn't listen.
And then when she learns the truth, it's still not about the dogs.
No, in fact, like when she takes the dogs, they actually like her.
Yeah,
like they find middle ground. Like the dogs are like kind of
they're
kind of shitty.
Well, they're used to an owner that like treats people, and I'm assuming dogs, like shit. So when she treats Jasper and Horace like crap in that scene, and the one Dalmatian comes over and like lays down next to her, and she says, I'll allow it, it's because that's what it's used to. Like so there's something about this movie that I wish they dove more into, which is nature versus nurture, because they touch on it with the dogs there, where that is sort of what they're used to, like that kind of hostile environment. And they touch on it in the fountain scene after Cruella goes back and she like takes the moped and she goes, or the scooter, and goes back after the fire. And after she learns who her real mother is. And that moment should have had more of the nature versus nurture stuff. Because I'm not saying that Cruella needs to say, like, I'm a product of my environment, like, outright. But I think the movie should probably take a better stance on saying that you're not born to be evil. Because the way that she then finishes that conversation with her, at the monument for her mother, is that she walks away saying, well, I was born this way, so I guess I'm going to be this way. And I wish the movie, not her, made more of a stance to say that's not actually how it works. But
well,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like with the dogs, that's because they respond to a strong owner, a strong leader that like commands respect. And when she's in Cruella versus Estella mode, they recognize that because the dog rolls over. It was like, okay, you're the boss now. And like, you know, they all of a sudden respect her, which I mean, like if you ever watch like dog training stuff, you have to be like, you know, really assertive with certain dogs or they don't listen and they don't care. Especially with power breeds. So, you know, I guess these take the place of like, say, a German Shepherd with the same.
Or like a Doberman or something. But that's,
yeah, like you have to be a strong owner.
That is where I'm saying that's the thread that connects the idea of nature versus nurture, because that's the nurture environment. That's the environment that makes the dogs into a more vicious dog. So I would have liked the movie to have said that Cruella is a more vicious person because of her environment, as opposed to her saying necessarily that I was born to this person, so that means I'm evil. Because it's how she walks away. Like, that's how she walks away from that moment.
But that's how she felt, and suddenly, like,
right. But that's what I'm saying. I think it's fine that she said it. I just wish the movie said a little bit more in the other direction. I wish the movie's like portrayal of the lesson being was opposing what she was saying.
Well, I think that was clarity for her, though. I think that she loved her mom. Her mom was like awesome, but I don't think she ever fit. And she always had this other side. She always had Cruella. She was always getting in trouble. She was trying to keep it in check. She was doing a really shit job of keeping it in check. She got kicked out of school, like, and all of a sudden when she realized who her birth mother was, which is Emma Thompson, spoiler, it clicked. It made sense of, you know, again, to your point, why was she raised by this like peach of a woman and still like this? Right.
But that's I'm agreeing with you on that part, that the character does feel that way. I just think that the lens, like the point of view should have no longer have been Cruella's at that point. The point of view should now be a third person perspective, as opposed to seeing through her eyes at that point. I just think it would have been like, there's a what is the name of the horror movie? God damn it. It's going to bug me again that I can't think of what it is. But like, it's a woman goes back to her girlfriend's family for like a holiday, and they're meeting the family for the first time. And there's a killer that shows up while everybody's asleep and starts murdering everybody. And she's surviving the night the whole time. But then
Is it Your Next?
No, this is like an Australian like movie from, it's like Hostel era. So like 05, 06 or something like that. But like it turns out, even though you see this monster going through that like Leatherface kind of character going through the house the whole time, it turns out she's the one that's doing it the whole time. And then at the end of the movie, even though you already know it's her, it keeps showing the monster man instead of just showing her. So it's this thing where I'm like, no, at a certain point you need to make the decision to back away from the perspective you're trying to, or you were doing through the whole movie. Once the veil is lifted, you kind of have to move the camera just a little bit. But like, I do still agree with you that like for the character herself, that makes sense in that moment. It's just that I think the framing of it for the movie, for what the movie's trying to say to the audience at that point, I think the movie itself could have said more, even though the character is saying what the character needs to say.
Well, I feel like the big one of the bigger points in the movie was your chosen family, right? So right. Even though like her mom chose to take her in, like this baby needed a home, they wanted to get rid of her, so she chose her and raised her as her daughter and never told her different, right? And then when her mom passes away and she ends up in London by herself, Jasper and Horace become her chosen family, and that's what they are. They're a family. And so I think there was also like, then you have, even though the Baroness is powerful and could take her under, and for a while it was like taking her under her wing and could like basically give her like her own fashion dreams, like she could bring her whole dream to life, and she's literally her family. She's not. She's a shitty person who does shitty things. So,
right.
Those were the people that stuck by her over there. I mean, she could have been like, oh, well, this person's going to give me everything. Bye. Like, she could have been a really horrible person
right.
and kind of gone along with that,
My thing is the fact that, like, at some point, Jasper has to say, like, somebody in this movie needs to, like, actually walk away. Mm-hmm. Because literally everyone around her just does go, like, you shouldn't, but I'm gonna help you anyway. Till the end of the movie. That's so I think if one person in this movie was like, no, and walked away, I think that would have done the thing that I needed it to, and still would have worked this, like, the whole rest of the movie staying the same. I think it would have been totally fine.
They got mad at her for like a minute.
Right. But then they were like, but fine. Like, I'll still help you. I just need one person to, like, I need her to have comeuppance. I need just a little bit of comeuppance for her.
I don't. She had a shitty life. Also,
but people... you get why I say that though, right? That's enabling the bad person.
Yes, I know. But as a reasonably attractive woman, there have been plenty of times when I've been like really shitty, and people have just gone, "Oh, you." So I don't know. Relatable. I try not to be evil, but there have been times when I've been less great.
Well, I can't speak to that personally.
And people have tolerated my bullshit. So I can relate to that a little bit. But yeah, I think it's like she was coming off of a real shit life in the beginning. So she didn't get her comeuppance because she wasn't the true villain.
Right, but she's not a hero either. And I just wish the movie made that a little clearer, because if you look at Twitter, like the day that it came out, everyone was like, weird, they made her the hero of the movie. And it's like, they didn't. When you look at it completely, like as a whole, she was bad the whole time.
But what
she's the protagonist, but she's not a hero by any means.
But she didn't do anything bad to anybody that didn't deserve it. I mean, she was a little shitty to her friends for like a hot second.
The only thing that I would say in this movie that she did was as like true good was rescuing Buddy from the dumpster. That was like the only time that she did anything that was like for anybody else. And then the rest of the time, the entire movie was just for her.
Yeah, but then they get to live in a big mansion in the end.
That by being shitty. I'm not saying the character shouldn't have followed that line. Mm-hmm. I think the movie did a bad job saying that the character was following a bad line. I think it just could have done a better job saying that the character's whole story arc is her being a bad person.
Hey, she tried to be like a good, hardworking person when she first got the job at the department store. She was trying to like earn an honest living. There wasn't an angle. She was really trying, and they treated her like shit.
Right, but that, I mean, I'm not I'm not saying she doesn't live a hard life. I'm just saying I think the movie should have just done a better job of showing that it wasn't, that this protagonist isn't a good person. That's like, because she's not. She's like, I love this movie, but she's not a good person.
She's selfish. She's selfish
and
and scheming.
That's what I'm saying. Like the movie does need to say, like, there needs to be some sort of message behind it if it's going to be a Disney movie, I think, is what I'm saying. Like, there needs to be some sort of positive spin to it that isn't saying, like, let's celebrate the person being selfish. And that's where it gets a little bit, like, in the weeds with the story it's telling. Because I love this movie. I just think it needed to do that little bit of a better job of saying, like, look at this cool story we're telling, but also, like, don't celebrate it at the same time.
I mean, to an extent, I thought her when she was going head to head and, like, stealing all of the Baroness's publicity was, like, textbook guerrilla marketing. Like, absolutely, like, phenomenal. Like, if you're gonna build a brand, like, holy shit.
Right, but that was all also, like, out of being a bad person, the way she was doing things.
What does this say about me where I'm just impressed?
I don't know. But I
literally am just like, she did a great job. I don't know.
Right, and she did what she felt she needed to do. I'm not denying that. It's just, but I'm disassociating the movie from the character. The character did what the character was supposed to do. I think the movie didn't do what the movie was supposed to do with balancing that out. That's all.
And she was nice to dogs. And she didn't hate dogs. She was very nice to dogs.
Which is great.
And actually, let's talk about the dogs for a second, because I saw a post earlier about, like...
Wink is my favorite dog in any movie of the last 10 years.
Oh my god, how
Granted,
cute.
it's CG for 99% of the movie, but it's, yeah.
Well, I saw a whole thing about, like, hey, you know, when the previous two 101 Dalmatians came out, there was, like,
the live action ones.
Live action ones,
yeah.
People went out and bought Dalmatians, and, like... You know, and they're really hard dogs to train. They're very stubborn. You know, anything with purebred lineage sometimes can have a lot of health problems and whatever, and they get dumped in shelters.
That's sort of like everything, too, right? Like any pop culture animal. Like, like what was it with... what was... Black cats were getting adopted like crazy a few years ago.
Oh, I was going to say, after Men in Black came out, pugs were, like, a big thing because of Frank.
Was it Sabrina? Was that why black cats were getting adopted like crazy and then getting returned to shelters, like, super quick?
Maybe, but usually black cats are hard to adopt.
Adopted less, right. But I recall there being, like, a bit of a fad. As much as I don't want to call adopting an animal as a fad. But.
Oh, no, they are fads, and it's terrible. But I actually like that they did CGI dogs for that reason, number one.
Oh,
and number two, making dogs vicious, like real dogs, and, like, live action stuff is really brutal. Sometimes they use snarl bands on them to, like, lift their mouths up. Like, it's not, like, a natural state for a dog to be like that.
Yeah.
Like, dogs aren't actors. They're just doing what you say.
It doesn't make sense to use a real dog when you can afford to. Well, it's the whole thing with whatever that, Christian movie was a couple years ago of, like, the dog that keeps coming back, the soul of the dog keeps coming back, where they were using real dogs and they were, like almost drowning them.
Yeah, and putting them in traumatic situations. Like, use the real dogs on the close-ups. Like, that was great. Like, they had some real dogs. Like, Wink obviously was a real dog in several scenes with his little eye patch and his little rat costume.
Anytime it wasn't just standing there, pretty much.
Or, like, you know, anytime he was being scooped up by somebody and, like, held, like, the
a lot of the
baby.
A lot of the time, even that was CG. Because I'm, like, the screen I watched it on is my 4K monitor. And I'm, like, 1.5 feet away from it. And when you're sitting that close to it, you can definitely see it. But, like, that doesn't bug me. I was just saying that, like, the recognition is going to the dog, but I'm trying to, like, say it's for the character of the dog. But yeah.
But like I did appreciate, and I thought that they went out of their way to showcase like she had her dog, like Wink was part of the team. Like it wasn't
It was kind of weird that they introduced Buddy in this very like she saved him from the dumpster. And then Buddy wasn't really an important dog through the rest of the movie. Like as much as like the spotlight was on like Wink and then the Dalmatians. And Buddy was kind of just there. But yeah.
I mean, he was her loyal sidekick when she was young and just kind of chilled, but like also, 10 years passed between when she met them and the park and then, later. So, I mean, how old was Buddy by the time like they got in trouble? Like 2? So what is he like?
I don't think age is
10
a hard line thing in this universe.
Yeah.
I think Buddy the dog is going to end up, if they make any more of these, he'll be 30 years old and spry as a puppy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I like that they, some people might find it off-putting to use CGI, but like when you think about all the things that those dogs had to do, it makes a ton more sense to do it that way. And she didn't blame them. It wasn't their fault. They were on command. They were instructed to do that, and she never even was like, "Oh, Dalmatians killed my." No, she was like, first she thought it was her fault for not listening, and then she realized they were trained that way.
If you watch Call of the Wild, this is nothing. This is nothing in terms of CG dog work. That movie is not even like modeled on. It's probably modeled on a real dog, but like. They don't portray that dog as a dog. That dog is a cartoon character. So if you are able to watch that movie and enjoy that movie, this movie is fine. Like you have no problems with this movie.
I appreciated the approach that they took with that, especially given the history of this character.
Yeah, well, it kind of feels like this and the this was obviously more made for the big screen, where Lady and the Tramp was made for Disney Plus. But it feels like that movie and this movie, even though the dogs don't talk in this movie, they feel like they could be in the same universe. Whereas like this movie and like Maleficent or Mulan or whatever, like they all feel separate from each other. It's cool that I can see a through line because of the way that they used CG for animals. It works where I can like somewhat believe that they could somehow connect, even though it's decades apart and in a different part of the world. But yeah.
Also, the costumes, phenomenal. If this doesn't get an Oscar nod for costuming, that's a huge upset, because absolutely stunning work.
Yeah, so
phenomenal.
There's something I saw today that is kind of upsetting to do with the costuming in this movie. There is a licensed Cruella clothing line that is based on the outfits of this movie, apparently. And the designer for the movie doesn't get a cut whatsoever, which is a bummer after designing these costumes. Especially since there's like 40 of them. Well, no,
like a high end, or like the costume, like a high end like line.
I don't know the specifics of that, but the costume designers union made a big deal out of this one. So I think that it is a different circumstance than the general licensing agreements that usually go on.
I was going to say, yeah, they do a lot. Like her universe does a lot of those, and they kind of do the but they're casual cosplay kind of deal, or are these like nicer?
Right, but
that would be bullshit.
But that's the difference between they're working off of like character design work. Whereas this is somebody hired to do costume design, which is a different category from like somebody that creates like a Star Wars character and they have their sort of like one costume that goes along with them. Like,
well,
an Ahsoka costume is usually like it's orange and white and blue like her skin is, and like stuff like
Well,
that.
no. They do that all the time though. Like I've seen plenty of things where they've done the Scarlet Witch. They've done like her jacket and corset, like in a
Right, but these
when or like they did it for like Outlander. They had a bunch of like corsets and skirts and things that were based on
I think
Claire's
that this,
wardrobe.
right, but I think that those are interpretation costumes as opposed to, I think these are actually off of the plans from the costumes in the movie. Where
I'm trying to think
it's
of like
somebody's,
how that would even work.
well, it's similar to the way that somebody would make money off of the sale of a vinyl record of the score. Like it's licensing agreements for the work done there. But like I'm pretty sure that this is more of they used her specific plans to make copies with a third party company to sell in a retail market, as opposed to like a Her Universe saying like, we're going to make a hoodie that looks similar to that. Mm-hmm. As like it's replica stuff more than like an interpretation. So I found it interesting. Like it seems like that is going to be a possible game changer in the industry going forward.
Also,
from the article I read earlier.
That seems like a really dumb idea because those costumes are like super elaborate and not stuff that you could just wear on the street. Like I'm thinking of like the trash truck dress. Like what do you like? Why would you even do that? Like that just seems.
Why would you buy a $5,000 stormtrooper costume?
Yeah, I know, but that's Star Wars. That's like a different level of fandom than Cruella.
But it's Disney. It's Disney. They're they're selling it. That's what it really boils down to. But yeah, this like the style in general in this movie, the aesthetic of this movie is outstanding. Like from the look of the movie, like just the way it's shot to the costumes to, and I said this earlier, the needle drop stuff with the soundtrack, like there's like 40 songs on this soundtrack. Like the score to this movie has to be like 15 minutes long because of the amount of licensed music they used in it.
Well, that, and I forgot to say the hair and makeup better get an Oscar nod too, because absolutely phenomenal. Just like she has a two-tone haircut and the hairstyle, and the amount of variation and different things that they did with that, or even like the makeup when it says like the future like across her face. Yeah. Like all that was just like all those looks are absolutely amazing. Sorry, I like as someone who loves makeup, that was like incredible to see, because usually, you know, when things get a lot of attention for makeup, it's more special effects. It's more like really
prosthetics and stuff like that.
But like there are things that I could do. Yeah. There, like, you know, if I ever wanted to do a cosplay, like, and you know my whole thing about cosplay and makeup is that like so many cosplays don't really have an attached defined makeup look to them. Like when I do Jubilee, I do the whole pink glitter eyeshadow thing that's not like integral to the character, but it makes the costume look better. This time I don't have to make up stuff. It's already there. But anyway, the music is incredible. They mostly use covers though, like, or rather
there's a lot of it's a lot of originals. If you look at the list, it's a lot of originals. But I do like the Florence and the Machine Cruella song, like doing the Cruella song from the original cartoon movie. But yeah, it's a lot of like Rolling Stones, the Animals, stuff like that. There are the like in-universe songs where like now I Want to Be Your Dog, like doing the Stooges and stuff. But like for the most part, the songs that they're not actually listening to, that are just needle drops, those are the ones that are the real ones. But yeah, she sings along with like Nancy Sinatra when she's boozing up the store, which I was kind of surprised they showed that scene that way, where she's like drinking out of a crystal brandy snifter. But yeah, the style in this movie, outside of Emma Stone's performance is like the highlight of the entire movie. Obviously, like it's what you have sold the movie on, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anyone thought like this. They took one aspect of her that was like the shittiest aspect, which was like her fashion, which was all like furs and killing things, and like spun
And
her
not
into
even not even actually good. Like in the old cartoon, it's actually she's actually got like bad fashion sense.
They turned it into like she really cares deeply for fashion and spun her into a fucking icon.
Yeah, they took I, Tonya, which the director of this movie directed, and mixed it with The Devil Wears Prada. And the style aspect is way more like in line with I, Tonya in the like glamorizing things that, like, granted, this is in a world of glamour, but like glamorizing something more so than it even would come off in real life. But like it just has that setting that's Devil Wears Prada. And yeah, I think that decision is just a super smart one they made, that where it like fits perfectly.
For sure. Yeah, I told my sister to watch it because I thought that she likes fashion, and we always talk about, you know, red carpet looks and things like that whenever there's like award show season. But yeah, I thought that was like absolutely incredible. I kind of wish that it like came out ahead of award show season, because I would have loved to see like some inspired looks on the red carpet. Unfortunate
Side effect of the world currently.
Yeah,
it was supposed to come out last year, so. But yeah, and then like, as much as they're very obvious, I liked the references to the original cartoon. Like when Horace is in the car and he's like, you ever realize that dogs and their owners look the same when they're like, and that kind of stuff,
the Afghan hound.
That kind of stuff made me so happy, because it's a throwaway, like, pointing. It's Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the screen, but like it works. Like, they're retelling a story that we expect to have those things, so it should have those things. I liked how that worked out.
Yeah. I mean, I liked that Jasper and Horace were her best friends and her chosen family, and it made sense why they were her henchmen. Like, why would you work for someone so horrible? But, like, in this case, it's because they grew up with her.
Yeah. That's where I think...
They were the team.
So, not to go back to the thing that we could not see eye to eye on so much, but if they added in a third henchman that joined them as an adult, and then he was like, oh no, fuck this, I'm out of here, I think that would have done what I needed it to do with what I was talking about earlier. Because even if it's a throwaway character, I like one person that just says, no, I'm not going to deal with this, I'm out. Like, that's it. That's all I want. Because even Anita's like, yeah.
I love that she was friends with Anita. I love that Anita was her friend from primary school.
I'm totally fine with the fact that they were friends. I'm just kind of like, I feel like Anita at one point would have been like, really? But she's just like lock and toe the entire time. But at least Roger with the Baroness is like, what the fuck? Like, he's like, I don't think we have a legal leg to stand on with some of the stuff you want to do. So like, I think just that kind of character for Cruella to have for 5 minutes and dump would have been fine. That would have been good for me.
I'm cool with her doing her own thing, and you know what? They're all grown adults. They could piece if they wanted to, and they didn't. So,
well, not the way they're written. But yeah.
So that's they're grown men. They can make their own decisions. They chose to stick with her, and I'm okay with that. She might not be the best person, but she's not the worst. That's the Baroness. So, somewhere in the middle.
Right, but that's not a binary choice. You don't have to be with either of them. Yeah, I
mean, at least she's entertaining. She's not boring. I mean, that's a redeeming quality all in itself.
Listen, this might be me now being a 36-year-old who has always been a hopeless romantic, I think I'm past it finally. I think I'm past that. I can't do it anymore. But yeah, I'd like, besides that, like, slight thin aspect to me, like, everything else about this movie is phenomenal. And it all boils back down to, like, all of the stuff we talked about with, like, the style and aesthetic of the movie, it all in another movie could feel like too much. But because Emma Stone is going so hard in her performance, it doesn't feel like too much. It feels like it matches, like, what she's putting on film. And that's why I think it all works so well, because her performance, like, she goes from really huge for the majority of it, particularly, like, as the Cruella persona, but, like, it makes that one scene where she drops it after finding out the truth and she goes to the fountain. It makes that moment where she's a little more solemn, a little quieter. It makes that one of the most, like, poignant parts of the movie. As much as, like I said, I think the movie could have done a better job of, like, saying whether or not that was right or wrong the way she was acting. I still think that her performance in that moment is, like, leaps and bounds above most performances. Like, it's outstanding.
I mean, and also, one thing we didn't mention, it's June, so it's Pride Month, and Artie was a great as her yet another accomplice. There, you had another adult man.
She had her own Bowie.
She did.
Which is great.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw that. I don't even know who the stupid Republican person was that tweeted it out. But it's like some verified person who is, like, right wing was tweeting out, like, Disney ruined my childhood because they had a gay. I was like, you fucking kidding me? You really? Stupid bigot. It's so ridiculous. It's like someone tied him down and forced him to watch gay porn because he watched Cruella. It was like,
but given the time frame that it was set in, I love that they had him wear makeup and like do his thing and like be fabulous, because you mentioned a Chatterone Bowie, and that's what, like, I don't know why everything is like in these really narrow parameters, like men never wear makeup. Like, do you remember the 80s? Like, we're not that old. Like, fucking I don't know what
10 years of Green Day was all makeup.
Right? Fucking Fall Out Boy had eyeliner. Like, come on now. I don't understand this whole, like, this, like, toxic masculinity is, like, way out of control. Like, they need to, like, just, like,
reel it in. Reel it in, boys.
Like, I'm sorry, the fact that you have bags under your eyes doesn't make you look like more of a man. Throw some fucking concealer on there and use some sunscreen. Thank you.
Listen, I have bags under my eyes.
But that's what I'm saying. But you would not use concealer, but just a little
I have allergies, and I'm tired a lot.
I mean, I can make some recommendations. Are you using a retinol? Like,
no, you see, I have skin allergies, and so I could only put a Vino on my face.
I'm just saying, I can make some recommendations if you want.
I'm comfortable with who I am.
Well, that's good. We all should be.
Yeah, I really like it took me a long time with like the characters, who the actors were, because it wasn't all, like, other than Emma Stone and Emma Thompson and Mark Strong, is basically a bunch of people that are lesser known. And I was like, who is the guy that plays Horace? Who is the guy that the whole movie? And then afterwards, when I looked it up, I was like, oh, right. It's the guy that played the Olympic bomber character in that Clint Eastwood movie from like 2 years ago. And I was like, right, now I know. And it was like I still don't know who half of this cast is.
I
like that because I'm not like worried about seeing Like if Mark Strong had a more prominent role in this movie, I'd be like, Mark Strong the whole time he's on screen. But because he's silent through the majority of the movie, if he's even on screen, and then doesn't say anything until a lot later, I didn't really have to worry about that so much. So yeah.
But yeah. Also, you can't do like a campy fashion movie without a gay. Like, there are rules.
All right.
Like, so there are rules. Like, how do you do a fashion movie and with all straight people? That makes no sense.
Well, to be fair, for the most part, only one person in this movie is declaratively straight, and it's the Baroness. It's the only person that's ever actually outright spoken as their sexual preference, because they have a husband and they had sex because they had a baby.
Just that one time, though.
Yep. One and done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's part of the reason she's so evil and uptight. Anyway.
Oh, I think she's the one that didn't want it. Because the Baron seemed like a nice man.
Yeah.
We saw him for 30 seconds, seemed like a nice man. Then we find out he withered away. That was apparently what happened. And it only took 16 years for him to wither away from a solid 40 years old. Times were harder in the 60s.
Yeah. People only lived to like 35, I guess.
Yeah. Doorways were much smaller too at the time. Like when you go to Plymouth Plantation, that would and what's the other one in Massachusetts? I can't remember.
Old Sturbridge Village.
Yeah, Sturbridge Village. Yeah. All the doorways are small there because it took place in the 1960s.
You know, when people had to get married at 10 because they weren't going to make it.
Yeah. Man, not to sidetrack too much here, how fucked up is it that they still bring students to Plymouth Plantation? I think they should probably change the name of that if they're going to continue doing that.
I mean, they could call it like the Plymouth Settlement. They should probably
also stop hiring white people to play the natives there.
They could call it, practice Thanksgiving. I don't know. Like, whatever.
No, I think that might be worse. That might be worse.
I don't know, like where the Mayflower landed. There are plenty of actually Old Sturbridge Village. That's a better name.
Yeah, still probably shouldn't be hiring white people to play natives though. They do that too. They just have a better name.
We know they're part of the story, but it's very checkered. So maybe you don't have to like focus on that part either. Like you can just make your butter and look at your short doorways.
and have Weird Al's Amish Paradise playing in the background.
Yeah, so if you can't do it respectfully and correctly, then maybe not.
Yeah, maybe just don't have people do it.
Yeah.
Just tell the story. You don't have to show it. It's fine.
Yeah, you can be like, they live over there.
Yeah, but I said I didn't want to sidetrack too much, but we got sidetracked too much.
Now I'm hungry and I want a post-Thanksgiving sandwich.
Well, you live not too far from a place that sold a pretty good one. I don't know if it's still there, but it was in Davis Square. So, yeah, I don't know. I think we covered everything pretty much that I wanted to bring up. Do you have anything else?
No, other than I thought one of my favorite moments was the cocoons, the dress where the beading.
It's a cool twist.
That was a really cool twist.
And I was like, why? Wait, why are they breaking in and saying they need to know that we broke in, and then not doing anything, and then revealing why was a good idea.
I thought the heists were very well planned out. I thought they were very well thought through, and cool, like a little like Ocean's 11-y, but like on a very small scale, like Ocean 3, or and a half. We'll give Wink a half. He was part of it too.
It was like the British version of Logan Lucky. Which is Soderbergh doing Ocean's 11 again, except it's West Virginia hillbillies, and there's only a couple of them. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's it. That's all I got.
Cool. All right. Well, I don't know what's on the docket right now.
Oh, I do. Another gay icon. Loki starts in not this week, but next week. Starts on the 9th.
Right. So we'll be back in like 3 weeks for that.
Well, let's see how that one goes, and we'll like we've done with the past ones, where we figure if we're gonna do the episodes.
I think it's gonna be 2 episodes per, more than likely. But yeah, we'll be back with that. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to see A Quiet Place Part 2, because I'm dealing with car stuff. So yeah, but hopefully I'll be able to see that soon. If not, we may just have to put that off until it. I think it's on a 45-day release window, and then it'll be on Paramount Plus. So I might sign up for just doing that when it comes up.
Oh, then you can watch the iCarly reunion. I bet you're really excited about that.
I literally barely know that show exists.
I actually like that show.
And in fact, until this week when it was trending on Twitter, could have sworn it was a Disney show and not a Nickelodeon show, because it was well past my time. Because I very much was more of a Hey Dude and earlier era.
You act like I'm not a year older than you.
Well, no, apparently you were watching live action Nickelodeon shows when you were 26.
I just like to be hip and with it. I like to know what's happening.
That's fine. I watch Ninja Turtles cartoons. That's fine. Speaking of which, that I'm very excited about that Seth Rogen Ninja Turtles movie that has a release date now.
Ooh.
Yes.
That is exciting.
Especially after Invincible, because Invincible was fucking amazing, and you should. I know you have no plan to watch it. You should watch it.
I know, but I said I was gonna start Naruto, and so that's gonna be a large commitment of my life.
Yeah, you're not, even if you commit to that, you're not going to finish it for 15 years. There's 9,000 episodes. You could take a break to watch 8 episodes of a show.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Real end time now. All right.
Yep.
But we'll be back with at least a handful of episodes for Loki. But until then, bye.
Bye.